Hello again, and welcome to International Women's Day celebration with the Women's Awards and me, Sandra Pollock, founder of the Women's Awards. Wow, I hope you've been keeping up with us today. This is chat number 4 of the day. And what are we talking about today? We're talking about International Women's Day and what does it mean to you? And I've invited a few of my friends to come along and join me to look at that particular question from their perspective, wherever they are. Now, already today, I'll go through, if you've not seen these, I've spoke to Karen Curitin at 8 o'clock this morning. Then it was David Wilkes at 12:15, 1:15. I spoke to Professor Clive Fraser, Professor of Economics, University of Leicester. And my guest right now is Cheryl Armatrading, who's the founder of an organization that she came up with as a result of going through quite a difficult situation. I am going to just let her briefly say what that was in a moment. And if I get this right, Cheryl, so her organization is Antoin, don't tell me, Antoin Akpom Achievements Foundation. So there you go. And if anybody knows me, I struggle with words anyhow, so I have to take my time. So Cheryl, welcome.
Welcome, Sandra, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure being on this show. So as Sandra introduced me, Cheryl, founder of AAA Foundation, which is Antoin Akpom Achievements Foundation, and it was set up in the memory of my son who was tragically murdered coming up to 8 years ago. But it was a continuation of a business that he had started to empower young people and using arts and sports. So what we do is deliver a variety of intervention programs to inspire young people.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So we're looking at International Women's Day today. So before we get on to the bulk of the thing that I want to talk to you about, I want to talk about young people with you today. But before we get to that, Cheryl, what does International Women's Day mean to you as a woman? As a businesswoman?
I mean, I know we say we should celebrate women every day, but it's a day for me set out to acknowledge and inspire the contribution that women make all around the world, and also to empower those that are looking up to the leaders to see for direction how they can also achieve. But basically, it's about acknowledging, because as women, we're mothers, we're nurturers, we're wives, and we need to be us sometimes and appreciate who we are.
I like that. We need to be us sometimes and appreciate who we are. Absolutely love that. That's a gem. And thank you for that. I think it is important that we stop and we do look around and get some replenishment for ourselves, not just continue to give out, but to stop and recognize that we do need that support. So Cheryl, so your organization focuses on young people. So celebrating International Women's Day, my question would be, from your perspective, what is it like for young women coming up now? Have things changed? Have things not changed? What's the experience that young women feed back to you when you engage with them?
I think over the years it's rather challenging, and from my experience of working with in education and welfare to work for the past 25 years, I've noticed that the preparation for young women, a lot of the support is not there. So, for example, if we go back, say, 10 years or so, and you're looking about people, especially young girls that have been expelled from school, haven't had the guidance, they're now parents. And then you've got all these challenges, and then there's the fear of what's going to happen to their children on the roads, where they go. Also about how and where do they start if they want to redirect themselves back into empowerment, that dream of the career they might have or the goals that they have set for themselves. I don't think there's enough support for them, and I think there's a lot more expectation and they're not, they don't feel that they can address their needs and requirements. It's like you're just put into this world of just get on and do it. And days like today is a tribute to help going into the right direction and supporting young women. A young mother starting out has a lot of responsibilities. Yeah, they've got no qualifications, so they feel stuck in a rut in getting basic jobs, and I'm not undermining those jobs. And then how do they start climbing the ladder to offer more to their children? And also then they're sort of, because they're isolated in what they're doing, and so in a nuclear of trying to be a mom, trying to do everything, they haven't got time to develop themselves, and they tend to go into difficult relationships where again they can't develop, and they haven't got that support from whoever that partner is. And I'm not sort of stereotyping as everyone, but it's particular women that's come back to us and say these are some of the issues that they're experiencing, and they want to do better. But also the biggest burden, I think, is how, if they're mothers, can they offer better to their children, and what example can they set out to their girls? So if that information or support is not there, then we have a new generation of the same thing reoccurring over again into a cycle.
Yeah. So what do you see as some of the options, some of the things that we can do? I mean, and I mean, not only businesses and governments, I mean, all of that, but we also as individuals out there on the street, as it were.
I think I mean, if you go back again to the mentoring, and I remember when I was a young girl, that when the neighborhood brought up the children, and someone can say they have a concern and they can speak to the mother and say, look, I'm concerned about your child, or someone can give advice. But there's so much red tape now around safeguarding, around if I talk to this person, are they going to attack me? Am I saying the right thing? So it's a real difficult situation. I think sometimes it's health and safety gone mad, and I can understand and appreciate it. But community centres are closing down. I think one of the greatest area we can start on is schools, is teaching life skills, not just about academic qualifications, but how do you deal with situations, how you cope, where's a signpost where you can get help as a young person. It doesn't help that a lot of those organisations are closed down. I think if you can find someone that's a bit more mature and experienced that you can share your concerns with, and also find a professional agency where you can get advice from. And I think it's the responsibility of the whole community to bring up a child or to support that young person. And do you remember godparents? When you were godparents,
yes,
you're supposed to be responsible for that child if something happens to the parent, or support them while they're alive, bringing that child up. I don't know if they have the same meaning of godparents anymore, or if godparents can get involved, but someone that you can attach to give you wisdom and advice and guidance. And also the fear taken away from social services, that if you've got a concern and you want support, there's this fear that if I talk to somebody, they're going to take my child away, or they're going to give me drugs and painkillers and say that I've got a mental issue or problem. So it's which direction do we go to? So again, it's also very important who we associate ourselves with.
Yes,
people that can inspire us and advise us. It's not a joke about my grandson the other day. I heard him on the phone on Valentine's Day saying to one of his cousins, saying, I know you've had 2 girlfriends, and I'd like to get your advice on how to get a Valentine. So it's an 8-year-old asking an 8-year-old advice. I know. I
well, ask advice.
Yeah. Make sure it's not another 8-year-old.
But then that is the thing. Who else do you go to? And if the people around you don't know, then that's a sticky situation, really, isn't it?
It
So
is.
how do we help young people, young women, to find other people that they can learn from, talk to, that that maybe can provide this sort of mentoring that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, we've been talking about that with some organisations, and we're currently putting together networks on where people can be signposted and what support. And I think we need to have more community conversations and try to engage. I think there's the gap between the mature generation and the younger generation is getting larger and larger. So there needs to be something that can be in place to bridge that, and also it's respecting. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of the mature generations don't respect the younger people, and they can see that quite clearly. So someone's not going to come to you if you've already had a negative mindset and a preconception about how that young person is, especially if it's a young person bringing up children on their own. So yeah, so it's about how do we getting together and building those bridges and finding the right organisations. I mean, if they've got an auntie, an uncle, it could be male or female, that can support them, or a friend that they see has already achieved something that can support them. But I think it starts with trust.
Yeah.
No
I think that's the thing, finding ways to bring the generations together so that all of that wealth of experience and understanding, knowledge, from the more experienced generation can be shared. But I know that, in my business, I work with young people as well, because they know things about technology and ideas and what's going on. And, coming together with them, hearing, listening, actually helps my business. So it is a two-way thing.
Yes, it is, especially when we had lockdown, and I had no ideas about the various platforms. And I'm talking. We have some young volunteers, and it's really great at using the social media. So we both learn from each other and have that mutual expectation and respect from each other. One of the things that we're trying to do, I just was looking at a strategic plan from the Violent Reduction Network, and it's about, one of the things is about engaging and getting young people together, looking at, if you're concerned as a young person, you've got the opportunity to rally. That you've got councillors, you've got MPs. There's not enough services. Where do you go? You've got the head teachers. If teachers meetings, get involved in the governors meetings. So you can be on that platform and you can engage with other people to get advice and learn new things. Get involved in going on boards. Learn. You can never stop learning and engaging.
Do you find
networks?
Do you find that many of the younger generation are, brave enough to want to do something like that? Because, going back to the points that you've made before, they may think that they don't know enough, they're not experienced enough, people might not listen to them. So how do they get over those sorts of
I think it's for the leaders to try and make ways to approach them, to give that opportunity. And because some of them may have reached out for help before and has been let down. So it still boils back down to that word trust. And what are we as leaders and organisations doing to build that bridge? That's the question that really needs to ask, because we can set up all these various organisations, centres, but if we're not reaching and lending a hand out to them and supporting them and letting them know that we're here for you, we're not here to judge you, we're here to support you. Because at the end of the day, they are the women of tomorrow. And those women of tomorrow are bringing up the children of the future.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, we can put all those things in place, but I think the ownership comes on us, on our shoulders, unfortunately.
Yeah. So going out, really finding ways we need to go out and make those connections is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very interesting indeed, because one of my big questions today, have things changed? And I know from my perspective that there has been some change, but I think there's still a lot and to be done in terms of creating a different environment for younger women coming up. And as you've rightly said, letting them see that, number one, they have a voice, and number two, that tomorrow will look different. It doesn't always appear that way, but tomorrow can look different. And this is how, how we can make that happen. So, okay, so, in terms of International Women's Day, looking to the future, what would you like to see different for young women from today?
I think the challenges that are there in the industries, acknowledging and respecting their abilities, their capabilities, their qualifications, their know-how, their knowledge and wisdom. Stop, I'd love to see where a woman is given that opportunity for her worth. Same, payroll as a male gender or above, depending on what her capabilities are and her status is. Not having to keep proving herself in an industry to fight her worth. And there's so many women pioneers throughout the years, and it's about, at the end of the day, let's face it, right? If a man had a child, the world would end.
It's not an easy job, is it?
if we can carry a child for 9 months, if we can bear that child, nurture and bring it up to be the future person for a new society, then that we're a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. I agree. We are certainly a force to be reckoned with. And I think part of that is us accepting that ourselves and sharing that knowledge with other women and, young and old. I know we talk a lot about, we've been talking about younger women, but there are older women that have not yet accepted that. So sharing that viewpoint. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always motivating and inspiring talking to you, especially when we talk about the impact that you're having in our local community and what you're doing out there. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been wonderful.
You. And I'd like to say thank you so much for what you do, and especially with your awards. You acknowledge and tribute women for their commitments, their dedication, for empowering others. And congratulations on your OBE.
Thank you. Kind of you. Thank you.
And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. You're welcome, Cheryl. So just on that note, to remind everybody, nominations for the Women's Awards 2021 are open. So go through, see what the categories are and nominate. We celebrate women all year round, not just on International Women's Day, I am pleased to say. So we are going to wrap up this one, but coming up later, 4:15, 5:15, 6:15. We have lots of other guests that I have invited to join me today to talk about International Women's Day and what it means for them. Now, I also have some spots tomorrow because there are some people that couldn't make it today. So if you're one of those and you want to join me tomorrow, then message me. But looking forward to chatting with you again. Cheryl, thank you again. It was great to talk to you. Until next time, take care.